Hey everybody, welcome to the GameSpace Game Show. Steven Weber, that's me. I am your host, and I have some wonderful people, and Dame's ready to go. Dame Big, one of our favorite co-hosts, one of our favorite hosts as well, with many hosting duties. Dame, how are you?
I have no idea what you're talking about, Steven. I'm just glad to be here.
Are you?
Yes.
Looks like we also did a little switch up here of Robin. You switched locations here.
Oh yeah, because my webcam went out for a second.
That's okay. We
Oh,
don't
no.
blame you. We blame Skype. Dame, Thundercats
Yes.
ho, or I mean,
Indeed. Thundercats indeed. So there is actually a I don't know if you saw this or not. There was an announcement of a new Thundercats series that's going to be coming out. I'm actually looking forward to playing Bless as a Thundercat. Because
oh yeah, the Panthera.
Yeah.
the Panthera, yes.
Yeah.
Because thunder.
Is that what happened when Panthera and Chitara have a baby?
Yes.
That's,
You just gave me a great name. So
That's an insane amount of Thundercats knowledge coming from you over here, Robin. And I'd like to introduce Robin as well. Robin has been on the show before, and we love having her. Robin, how are you doing?
Great. Yay.
Excellent. Excellent. And we have a very special guest. We have a famous, infamous maybe, Twitch streamer, Aurora Peachy. Peachy, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Thanks for having me.
indeed, glad to be here and glad to be here with you as well.
So we have a very interesting show because Dame, I think you were on the show, episode 15, where we talked about toxicity in gaming a little bit.
Yes.
We went into a lot of different things there, and
I was too.
you were actually. So we have pretty much the entire crew with I don't remember who else was on the show, but
Matt
whoever
was
it
on
is,
the
we swapped
show
them
as
for
well.
someone much better. So we're going to be covering a little bit of that, but right now I kind of want to swing over to Peachy and talk maybe a little bit about what you do on your channel. I've watched your channel a little bit. I especially like the Guild Wars 2 stuff since I do a lot of stuff with Guild Wars 2. And then in conjunction with Robin, we've been doing some weekly articles for MMORPG. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about what your channel is about. And what you
Sure,
do.
absolutely. Yeah, well, I'm a full-time variety caster. So, oh, we lost her again. No.
It's okay. She likes hiding. She'll be back.
But yeah, my channel focuses on full variety, but you are right, we actually have a specialty in Guild Wars 2. Most of my community, kind of my roots, I came from YouTube originally years and years ago, and my roots are kind of in Guild Wars 2, and we keep that up to this day. It's my favorite MMO, one of my favorite games, and so we stream that every single Tuesday, kind of a staple in our schedule, and my community loves it. But we do full variety. I stream PUBG every Wednesday and co-op games with my friend Bog Otter, and I love single-player adventure games. I love survival games. We just finished up Kingdom Hearts 2 for the first time.
Nice.
And loved it. And we just started playing Switch games this week, so a little bit of everything.
Well,
And
we have a little bit of chatter in the Twitch stream here that says that you also crush at Mario Kart. Can you either confirm or deny that?
I can definitely deny that I crush at Mario Kart. Right now, I gotta learn all the Mario Kart 8 controls, because
So you can get like the good Luigi like side eye in.
that's master level. I don't know if I'll ever be that level.
I think you can do
pro.
it. I think you got this.
We do
I
have
can
definitely.
strive. I can strive. Yeah.
So you well, Guild Wars Tuesday, obviously, PUBG Wednesdays, and you kind of have like some retro stuff that's going on. Well, do you have retro stuff? I think I saw something on your channel where you were playing something.
I like doing super retro stuff. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I like doing super retro stuff, like from my childhood, for charity streams. actually. I do a couple charity streams a year, and I really like doing Super Mario RPG is my favorite game of all time.
That's what I saw. Yeah, that's
yeah,
what I saw.
all favorite game ever. And so I did that once for a charity stream for RettSyndrome.org, and I think I'm going to do that again this year because it's been a couple years since I've played it, and I need to play it again. So. Yeah, I love going back to my childhood. I've been playing video games since I was 4, so long legacy of amazing games.
I like to circle back to Super Mario RPG every now and then. Do you have a favorite character there that you like to play? Because we don't actually see a lot of the characters from Super Mario RPG in other versions. Like, I've never seen Mallow in anything else, or Geno.
There's some of those exclusive characters, Mallow and Geno.
Yeah.
Exclusively, pretty much exclusive to that game. Everybody wants Geno in Super Smash Brothers, but
yes.
I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Yes.
But Nintendo and Square Enix paired up for Super Mario RPG, and then once they split ways, Square Enix had the rights to Geno and Mallow, so we saw really? Geno a little bit in other games, but a true sequel to Mario RPG would be like my dream game now, instead of the Paper Mario games, which are great.
Yeah. Maybe instead of getting Geno in Smash, we might get him in a Dissidia game.
Yes.
That'd be interesting.
Oh my gosh. That'd be phenomenal. But yeah, my favorite character is Peach. That's actually where the Peachy in my name comes from, is Peach.
I always wondered that.
from Super Mario RPG specifically, because I've also cosplayed her. So
really?
A lot to me. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. We're no stranger to cosplaying on this show. I wouldn't say that we're very good at it.
I would call it like budget cosplay. Maybe.
There's different tiers. You can strive. You can strive for that top tier cosplay.
This is true.
Well, I mean, aside from me being, Princess Leia on the Star Wars show, which was pretty much as budget as you could get, and then my Captain America costume. I don't think that we should do cosplay, but we certainly do. We try. So
hey, as long as you're having fun, that's all that matters.
Yep.
So on the topic here of, kind of frame this, because several years ago, there was this thing that you may have heard. Well, I wouldn't say several. I mean, we can maybe go back at least a decade or two, where there was a meme of there are no girls on the internet. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but it's still been kind of around. And, really, whenever we're getting into the topic on the 15th episode about where a lot of the toxicity in gaming comes to, we found that a lot of streamers seem to get a pretty raw deal, and even like on the worst end of the spectrum, it's women in streaming. And Robin, you said that you kind of had a little bit of experience with that. You spoke about it a little bit, but maybe you can refresh our memory on what you were talking about.
Well, it's just, from my personal experiences, it's interesting just when I stream, like, I've gotten people that complain about, like, I don't wear makeup, that I wear too much makeup, that, like, I'm too happy, that I'm not happy enough, that I don't smile enough, that I occasionally curse, so women shouldn't curse, apparently. Like, it's amazing. Like, pick anything and like somebody will have complained or like said that I should do or should not do that. I've personally seen that. And then I have a lot of friends who are also female streamers, and like some of the stories they've told me is just insane, like the levels that some people will go through on things. So like, I mean, honestly, just imagine the worst thing and then multiply it by 10. Like, it's insane sometimes.
That sounds quite. How long have you been streaming, Peachy?
This year, I believe it's going to be 4 years.
4 years.
I think. Oh my goodness.
That's a good amount of time.
It is, yeah. At 4 years in a couple weeks here, June 7th, it'll be 4 years.
That's awesome.
I'm a partner for almost 3 of that.
Wow.
So it's been a while.
Would you describe your rise as meteoric?
What do you mean by that?
I think that's a quote from something, isn't it?
I don't.
Yeah.
If it's
I'm no
if
good
it
with
is,
quotes.
I would know. But I mean, how would you describe your journey up to this point? I mean, you've obviously learned a lot, and I mean that's apparent. You know, I actually was watching your channel, and just from watching it, I mean, it just you're obviously a very involved and very happy streamer, which is always good to see because you don't always see that. And you have some pretty good production on some of your YouTube videos as well, which is pretty. It's pretty good for me because I came from YouTube myself with being a content creator, so seeing stuff like that is always pleasant to see. But so tell us a little bit about like what you've gone through from first year to now. You're partnered, and obviously putting out a lot of content, doing charity work, and being overall amazing. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about being amazing. Tell us about that.
Well, I don't know about being amazing, though I do use that word way too much. Describing everything. But you know what? That's because I surround myself with the good things. Your life is what you pay attention to, and so if you pay attention to the good stuff, then you're gonna be a happier person because you're bringing in the good. But anyway, yeah, I've always just followed my passions and what I love to do, and I've always loved video games. I've always loved content creation. I've been video editing since I was a teenager, just because I thought it was fun making Sailor Moon music videos, when I was in high school. So I just kind of kept following that, and I like to create the content that I like to watch. And I got started on YouTube because I started getting obsessed with watching Let's Plays on YouTube. So I said, I can do that. I know how to video edit. I know how to upload a video, and content creation. I've always been doing this just for fun. So I said, let's do it, and play some of my favorite games. Mario RPG was one of those games that I started with. And so I did it, I made a channel and put up those first couple videos, and I just did it for fun, and it just snowballed from there. I kept following my passions and creating the content that I enjoyed watching. I enjoyed watching reaction videos. So I started making reaction videos because I've always been an enthusiastic person and crazy about my fandoms, as you can see from behind me. I'm just get a little crazy about it. And so I was like, well, let's film myself. Guild Wars 2 had just come out. And so I was like, well, let's film myself, playing through these Guild Wars 2 updates, and that got the attention of ArenaNet, and so now I've been partners with them for years and years. They've been a phenomenal partner, and it just kind of snowballed. And the whole time, I just kept following my passions. I just kept doing what I love to do and creating the content that I liked watching. And once Twitch came along, it became more popular, and I started seeing YouTubers that I enjoy watching, kind of streaming a little bit on Twitch. It was kind of the same thing. I said, I can do that. That looks like fun. I can do that. And once I learned that there was instant gratification, instant comments from people, and no video editing, I've arrived. This is phenomenal. Like, no video editing, instant content creation, and then you're done. This is great. So and a lot of my community came over from YouTube, and I just kept doing it because I loved it, really. I never originally had any intention of it becoming my career, but through the grace and the generosity of my community and my own persistence in keeping a schedule and doing it regularly, here I am. So it's pretty magical.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
It's very magical. Extremely magical. And it's really interesting that you mentioned that it's through a lot of your consistency of what you're doing and things of that nature. Because, I mean, first, let's just point out, Robin is not very consistent with her stream.
Nah. I stream when I want, which is,
That's how I started on Twitch. I just streamed when I wanted. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, though. I'm very consistent with my stream. I don't stream.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
Well, I mean, considering that you don't stream, I'd say you're doing really well, because I follow you. I mean, you know, you do 0 streaming and have 1 follower. That's pretty good, considering. But overall, they say that, you know, let's see. A random polling of 2,500 channels said that women make up just under 20% of all streamers. And in the top streaming groups, and just so I can preface this, this is a poll from a couple years ago. So I'm sure things have changed substantially, but probably not that substantially. But they said that in the top of active streamers from this time period, it was found that men stream 5 times as many hours on average as women do. So, I mean, what do you think? I mean, I guess I'm going to throw this out to everybody because, I mean, I know streaming at consistent times is really important, but I mean, Peachy, you're streaming like how often per day? I mean, how many hours
right now
per day?
It's 6 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Wow. Okay.
That's streaming. That's not like the behind the scenes work. That's being live.
Yeah.
Wow. So set schedule every day. You're there and
Yep.
you're always doing it. So I mean, that's got to be a big part of why you're doing so well, because it sounds like you're outpacing a lot of what maybe other people are doing. Part of it, I mean, of course, it's also your content, it's also you, but it's also just because you're putting in the work to do it, right? I mean, that's a big
Absolutely.
part of it.
That's the number one thing I ask, or the number one thing I tell people, saying, you know, I'm new. I'm a new streamer. Give me some advice.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, just do it, because so many people I see are so concerned with their visuals and their graphics and their, you know, all this and that. And I said, that's not why people come to see you. They come to see you because of you. They're going to stick around because they enjoy your commentary or your gameplay or what you provide. And so, and you can only improve and get better at doing that by doing it.
Yep.
Mhm.
So go live. Even if you're just sitting there playing your favorite game, you're getting experience, you're learning. So just, you know, go live, just do it, start content creating. I wasn't a master, you know, video editor when back when I was a teenager, but I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I was putting that content out there. I was practicing with the software and learning it. And the second thing is be consistent. If somebody finds your channel and, you know, it's noon for them and that's a good time for them, and they say, oh, I want to see you again tomorrow, and they come back at noon and you're there, they're going to keep coming back if they enjoy your content. Now, you can put up schedules and you can have varying schedules, but yeah, being consistent and letting people know when you're going to be on is another key factor. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely plays an enormous part. So on the topic of the differences between these channels as well, though, I think it's really interesting because I think Peachy is kind of maybe an outlier in the type of content that she does. I'm not saying that you're a rebel, Peachy, but I'm not saying you're not a rebel either. But
he's not really saying anything.
I'm really not. I'm kind of just going off the deep end here. But so, for example, there's a lot of differences associated with what people, at least in one of the studies that I was looking at, there's a lot of differences in what people are watching, I guess, streams, quote unquote, for, whenever they're searching for, you know, male or female channels. And I'm not going to go into all the things that popped up whenever I was going through this, because I mean, a lot of what people were searching for isn't particularly great, because there is kind of like a subset of streamers that, I mean, a lot of people feel are kind of putting out more of a vibe of like on me and not so much on the game. And I know that your channel doesn't really do that. And I know that Robin doesn't really do that. I know Dame's channel is heavy on just look at me. Like Dame is...
Well, you know how I am with attention. I have a need for attention.
Very
well,
true.
Twitch does have the IRL section now, and you know, which does focus on the person.
Yeah.
And I think that's good with connecting with people.
You know, it's I don't know a lot about Twitch, so I'm just full confession here. So it is really interesting to hear that, because I've often there have been times where like I have an idea and often I've thought, you know, man, like it'd be great to have something like Twitch, except, you know, it'd be a place where you can kind of go and just kind of talk to people. And, you know, because the reality is that we're living in a world that is so we're the most connected but disconnected socially than I think any other culture has ever been. And I think that's one of the things that blows my mind about the Twitch phenomenon is that we have more people that are connecting over the things that they love. You know, Peachy, you know, what you said is, you know, was that, you know, you're passionate about the games that you play, and you create the content that you want to create. I think that's something that really resonates with people. Like, because here's the thing, I would rather watch somebody that we share an interest, or we share an idea or a passion over something, than to go in and watch something where somebody's pretending like, oh, yay, guys, today we're going to play this thing, and I'm just super stoked about it.
Yeah.
And
So that's why you don't
really
watch
care.
me, Dame?
Well,
No, I mean, I didn't want to say anything, Steven, but anyway, sorry, I'm going on a diatribe.
One of the things I think on Twitch especially is it comes across really well, I think, with the webcams and stuff, when you're being authentic about what you're doing and when you're not being authentic. Like, even if you have a hard time of telling that kind of thing in real life, I find it's really easy on Twitch to tell if the streamer is just really forcing whatever they're doing. And it makes a huge difference, because the whole thing about Twitch and being successful and all that is like you build up a community, your community. That's what drives it. And people don't generally like connecting with somebody that they feel like is fake. That's just, it doesn't feel good, you know? So I think that there's some trade-offs too, because also, like you were saying, that people are disconnected too, because some people have a habit of forgetting that the other people in chat and the streamers themselves sometimes are people.
Yep.
And, you know, like they have emotions and lives and things going on too. So, like, you know, it's a really interesting dichotomy where, like, you're connecting on a personal level, but you're not, like, at the same time. It's weird.
Yeah. Well,
That's why it's important. Sorry.
Go ahead. All you.
That's why it's important to also to be genuine as a streamer, because you are a real person. And while some people don't want to, you know, if they're having a super bad day, they don't want to share that with their community, because, you know, in the end of the day, they're entertainers and they're there, you know, if you're there to create a happy atmosphere, you want to keep the air light. But at the same time, you're a human being, and you have off days, you have bad days, you have days where you're stressed. And by sharing a little, I believe this, it's not going to work for everyone, but I believe sharing a little bit of those feelings with the community helps you to connect to these other human beings who are watching you around the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I unfortunately I can't say that because I don't classify as a person, but we have some people here saying that even when you're sick or not feeling well, you don't take breaks. Peachy, is that correct? Is that what they're telling me right now?
My community, who is just filling the chat right now, I love you guys so much. That's kind of a meme, is they'll tell me, you know, take a day off, take a break, end the stream a little bit early if you're not feeling good. And I'm like, no, I can power through. And that's just my own stubbornness. And that's one of the wonderful things about building a community that's based on love and acceptance and, you know, spreading the good energy, is that they care about me as a person. I mean, when I take a day off, I know that they're disappointed that I'm not streaming, because I'm fortunate enough that they have made me a part of their day. But I don't ever hear one person say, why are you taking a day off? My chat is filled with, Yay, Peachy took a day off for herself. Yay, Peachy's taking care of herself. We're happy. Get some rest, They're happy for me. And that's when you really know that you've connected as human beings to your community. And that's a beautiful thing.
It certainly is. So I'm going to ask this question, and I'm going to throw it out to everybody, but I don't really want to hear what Dame has to say about it. No, actually, I really do. So from everyone's particular perspective, do you think that men and women, streamers and gamers, which are separate, it's important to note that this is separate, because women playing online games such as Guild Wars 2 or upcoming Bless or whatever it is, do you think that they're treated differently, or they get, are they treated differently?
Depends. Like for the most part, I don't run into too many things, but then just as an example from the gaming side, I used to do the PTR in World of Warcraft a lot when I was raid leading, because I wanted to try the new raids and all of that, and I joined a pug group, and I actually met a friend that way, which was really cool. We talked for years, but so I joined that pub group and joined their event a long time ago. So normally back then, if I joined a group on Vent that I didn't know the people, I would not talk. I would listen, but I would not talk, because I just didn't want the reactions and stuff. Mm-hmm. And somebody asked something about the raid, and without thinking, I answered the question on Vent. And immediately, everybody was like, "Oh my God, who's the girl?" Because also I was a tank, because that's mostly what I do. I love tanking. And then when they found out I was the girl, it was like, it was crazy. And I was just like, I immediately kicked myself. I was like, way to mess that up. Why did I do that? So you get stuff like that. But for the most part, I don't run into too many issues with that. And it comes up in streaming sometimes, but I feel like overall, I think it's getting better. People are being less accepting of crap when people do it. In general, there are still, those pockets of things that bubble up, and it's terrible. But I think in general, we're slowly moving to a better place where bad behavior is not acceptable, and it's not okay to just be like, well, it's the internet, which I think is a great thing.
That's a phenomenal thing. Yeah, that is wonderful. I love that you're noticing that there's a difference. I don't run into a whole lot either. It definitely happens as a streamer. But I also am not the kind of, I'm more of a solo gamer when I'm not on stream. So I don't do a lot of that, jumping into a voice chat of random people. That terrifies me. So kudos to you for doing that in order to explore your favorite games.
She's a warrior.
Yeah, a lot of respect there, and for dealing with that. But I think that's the key to overcoming this is to make it known that it's not acceptable behavior. If that kind of behavior is reprimanded from their peers and their friends, then that's going to make them think twice about doing it. And I myself am guilty of. We see a troll in chat, just ban them and move on. I get I'm sitting in the IRL section of Twitch and I get a nasty whisper from someone, just ban them, report them for harassment, and move on. My philosophy is don't respond, don't feed the fire. But thinking about this topic and preparing for this podcast, I started thinking, maybe I should at least say your behavior is not acceptable. Now, it may not, you may think, oh, that's, someone's just trolling, that's not going to mean anything to them. But if they don't get any feedback from that, if they don't, they want a streamer to respond to them and give them their 5 minutes in the limelight, right?
Yeah.
So if all they ever get back is that's not acceptable behavior, maybe we can slowly start to change things.
Well, the other thing on that topic too is I've noticed, so not just with Twitch, but also I moderate on forums. I've done that for 8 years now. I've noticed that it's not all the time, but there are definitely people who get on a chat or whatever and just act like assholes because that's what they think they're expected to do. Like they feel like they're joining the club by behaving a certain way because that's what it's expected. And when I point out to them, that's not okay behavior, you can't do that, it's not acceptable, they're immediately like, oh, I didn't realize. I thought that was just like, you know, what we're supposed to do. And I've seen people completely turn around and then be really productive and helpful. So like, I like giving people the chance. Like if you give them the chance and they keep just being awful, then by all means, like throw the book at them. But I have seen a number of times where there have been people who've literally just been like, oh, I was just trying to feel like I was part of the club and I thought that's what I should do, you know?
That's a lot of unfortunately that is a lot of Twitch culture in some bigger channels.
Yeah.
Is let's just spam the chat with memes. Let's, you know, and it's sad, but that's just kind of, you know, when you have that many people, these streams that you have like 100,000 people watching and the chat is scrolling so fast that conversation can't happen.
Right.
You know, so the only thing is, oh, let's copy pasta.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard in that situation, but I've been in that situation too. I've seen people actually apologize. You know, I say, you know, what you said is not acceptable. Some people will genuinely say, I don't know why what I said is wrong. And you explain it to them. And I've had people apologize and say, oh, I'm sorry for saying that.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, just letting these people know that that's not what all of Twitch is. Because there are channels that are nothing but memes and trolling and garbage. But so if they only hang out in those channels, that's what they think the site is. So then when they come into an accepting, friendly, productive, constructive channel, you gotta show them that isn't all of Twitch.
Yeah.
And there's a flip side on this. And Dame, I'm going to throw it over to you, but I also want to I want to also frame it that whenever I'm speaking about men and women in general being treated differently, it doesn't always have to be a negative thing either. And I don't know, coming from the opposite end of things, I think that there's, you know, maybe a stigma that and a reason why male gamers believe that, you know, female gamers kind of have the easy road because, you know, there's this underlying idea that, oh, we're you know, you found out that it's a girl and now you want to give her all this stuff, or, you know, she's going to have it easy because of whatever. And I mean, I know I've seen that personally in MMOs throughout the ages. It hasn't been so much these days, but passing it over to you, Dame, I mean, what do you think? Positive, negative? I mean, have you seen any differences?
So I would say that I've definitely seen some differences, but I have some kind of anecdotal stories that kind of go along with this conversation. So my wife and I, we played World of Warcraft a lot together. It was actually the thing that we did. We were dating long distance. And so it was kind of the thing that we would do together and stuff like that. And so we were a part of a really awesome guild that was a couple that led it. She was the raid leader. He was the main tank. Really, really cool situation. But anyway, so there was this really while they were present, there was this really good culture of equity within our raids and stuff like that. And but when that started to fall apart, like there was a lot of really toxic behavior around, and I don't throw the word toxic out lightly, because as you guys know, like, words are very important to me. But I've stressed this on other podcasts here, but from that point on, like, the experience was so bad for my wife that she never stepped foot in another raid group again. And she's gone on to continue to play WoW, and is actually one of the top pet collectors and pet battlers on our server, which is awesome, and knows more about the lore than I do. I always ask her. I'm always going to her for questions and things. But I think that there's an equity, though, that I think that and Stephen, I'm really glad that you said that like treating people differently is not a bad thing, but giving people equal place at the table is what is a good thing.
Yeah.
That's really what this conversation comes down to. And I want to go back to something that Robin said, because I think this is so key in any conversation that we have in talking about how we treat people and how we treat each other online. I read an article way back on MMO called "The Horseshoe and the Hand Grenade." I'm sorry, not the horseshoe and the hand grenade. It was something along the lines of a hand grenade. But anyway, whatever the case is,
there was a hiding place in there.
Yes, it was the hand grenade and the hiding.
This was
place.
your article.
I know.
How am I supposed to remember your article?
but anyway. So in that article, one of the things that I had talked about was that we often forget the humanity of the people that we're gaming alongside of. And sometimes those things that we do, like it's really easy to chuck a hand grenade into a room where we don't have to see the collateral damage of what happens. And so, Robin, you actually made a really, really good point of like when those behaviors kind of came up and those comments are made and stuff like that, of stopping and asking the question of like, hey, out of curiosity, why did you feel like it was appropriate to say that thing?
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that as I was kind of preparing for today, like, of course, I'm asking myself the question, like, what can I bring of value to a conversation about the female experience in streaming, as I am not female, nor a streamer. But one of the things I watched a documentary several years ago, as I was preparing for some other professional things, called "The Merchants of Cool," and very, very old documentary, but it talked about the way that the culture molds men and women. Mm-hmm. And in that there was in talking about the way that that guys are being shaped and molded, and the image that was kind of put in front of men as far as like, this is who you should be. There was a term that they used called the mook, and the mook kind of described the, like, basically think like early 2000s Blink 182, and it was kind of that image of like of be the loud, be the obnoxious, be the raucous, say whatever's on your mind, and do your thing. And I think that we've had some trickle down of that culture, except that the archetype has changed to, what are we watching? What are we watching on the end of, internet celebrities, and how people treat each other, like from the standpoint of like a streamer sense, like how are some of the big male stars, treating women in their chat or in their streams and stuff like that. And I think that there's something to be learned about, or at least recognize that we take on a little bit of the flavor of the cultural stew that we put ourselves in. And so, Peachy, you mentioned, in your streams that you try to focus on like, hey, we're going to have a good time here together. It's going to be a positive environment. I saw somebody in Twitch say something along the lines of like, we don't allow pests in the orchard or something like that. Which again, like, there's something to that, of saying, okay, this is our community standard, and this is what is acceptable and not acceptable, and being okay to come alongside of somebody and say, hey, you know what, this is our standard for who we are going to be as a Twitch community for my channel. This is my expectation on you. I want you to be here, but in order to be here, like, this is the standard that we have. So anyway. That's my piece on the deal.
Mic drop.
You did good.
Thank you.
So I'm, we do have a couple other things to cover in the next segment, and so to put this thing to bed, I do kind of want to pass it over to the ladies one more time. Just positive, anything that, do you think there's anything that's happened positively from you being females in games? I mean, or do you think that it's all just kind of been like, oh, anyone would have done that for anybody, or anyone that they would have gotten to know? Or obviously you know, in my recollection, there's been certain circumstances where I could see like some people might have treated someone a little bit different once they found out that they were female. But I mean, again, that may not be what your perception is of the situation in comparison to my perception. So I'm just going to pass that on over and see what you guys think about that.
I don't know. You go ahead.
Well, I can tell you that as a Twitch streamer and building this community, both from Twitch and from YouTube, I think the best thing that's come out of it, specifically from me being female, is being able to be actually like a mother figure to a lot of my community. Awesome. I have members of my community who call me Mama Peachy, or they're like you're like my mom, or you're like my big sister. Both of which I just find an honor that they would think of me like that, and as I get older, hey, if I could be Grandma Peachy someday and sit in a rocking chair and read stories or play video games or whatever, that's going to be, I look forward to that. And so being seen as that, as that loving figure is definitely the best thing that's come out of it for me.
That's awesome.
Hey, I just want to point out in Twitch here, Scheme 7. No, this is not the White Knight SJW show. This is the Decent Human Being show. So thank you for asking.
Wow. For me, I think the best thing related to being specifically a female who writes about games and streams games and all of that is, like, for most of my life in real life, I've had trouble having and maintaining good friendships with other women. That's the area I struggle with. I've always been better at making friends with guys than girls. Just variety of reasons. There's many reasons that play into that. But through doing this, it's enabled me to connect with other women who do these things or want to do these things and all of that, and develop some real friendships that I never would have had otherwise. And I think that's really special and cool. And in a way, it's taught me better how to relate to other females and build those relationships. So, yeah, I think that's probably the best thing for me that's come out of everything.
Excellent. Well, that's great to hear on both counts for you guys. And hope, see, I knew this was going to happen already. We've got people in chat saying Grandma Peachy. I think it's a little early for that.
Not quite.
Well, no. They said Grandma Peachy leading raids in Guild Wars 4.
I know, but
got time.
I don't want it to catch on so early that this Grandma Peachy thing's gonna take off. So let's go on to our next segment. I think it is time. Do you feel as if you're ready to move on, Dame? I can tell you're itching a little bit. So we have a few things. I wanted to bring up this one because this is big. It's so big. It's as big as Belgium, because loot boxes have been deemed gambling and illegal as they currently stand in Belgium. Games used as examples for such instances were Star Wars Battlefront 2, as we well know. Can't mess with people's Star Wars. Overwatch, FIFA 18, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and I'm sure a slew of more of them. Is stated that loot boxes use similar animations and functions to slot machine operations, which is very true, because I was in an airport in Vegas once. It was just I was walking by and they had a Star Wars slot machine game, and I played it several times.
Because you had to.
How could you not? I'm not even like a huge Star Wars fan, despite me dressing up as Leia 2 weekends ago. I was, I saw it and I was like, this looks amazing, and I had to play it. So I can understand that it's very much, loot boxes do feel like it's kind of like gambling. And limited time loot boxes add additional value shortages, which means, hey, if it's limited time, that increases the value of loot boxes. There are a lot of reasons why they did this. Let's see, is there anything else? So other countries in Europe are likely to follow suit. And, you know, here in the US, we've also seen some movement legislation-wise in terms of loot boxes and whether they are going to be considered legal or illegal. Guys, what do you think about this?
I mean, like, I don't know. So personally for me, I generally speaking, I like loot boxes because I like opening them. Like I often say that I don't play Heroes or Overwatch all that often, but I will always log in when I get loot boxes to open those because I like opening the loot boxes.
That's why they give you the free one.
Exactly.
First one's free.
So, like, I understand how it taps into the same things, and I can't really argue against that. And I know there's a lot of different things that are going into game companies wanting to make use of these. But yeah, I'm conflicted about it because, like, again, like I said, I like opening them, but I definitely have heard and have seen how it can be a problem, like especially for people who struggle with impulse control and things like that. It can be a huge problem. So
is this conflicting for you though, Peachy? Because you play Guild Wars 2 a lot, and I saw one of your most recent videos on it. You were looking at Black Lion chest stuff. So you Black Lion tickets to buy some of the cool gear. So, I mean, how does that make you feel? Like...
When you look at Guild Wars 2, the biggest debacle in the community about loot boxes was what we all refer to as Mountgate.
Yeah.
When ArenaNet first put out 30 new mount skins, but they were in RNG boxes with no way to buy those skins individually. And I don't think I've ever seen as big of an explosion of hate and craziness in the community as when that happened.
Yep.
And this is like, you know, late last year when the whole loot box thing was already controversial.
Yeah, their timing was horrible because I could have sworn it was like not that long after Battlefront 2 had the whole thing or something. Like it was terrible timing.
Extremely bad timing. To their credit, they have since they let you buy them individually now, as well as gambling on getting the one you want out of the box. But yeah, I'm torn on it. I'm kind of with Robin. I'm neither for or against it. I can understand them banning it and calling it gambling, but at the same time, when you open one, whether it's Overwatch, Guild Wars 2, anytime you open these boxes, you still are getting something digitally, and you know that you are getting something before you go in. You're not opening it and getting nothing.
Right.
To me, that's true gambling, is you put in your quarter and, sorry, you get nothing. You lost your quarter. You know, maybe you got the experience of watching it go, ching. But that, quarter, I don't know.
You got a 25-cent light show.
Exactly. Yeah. So at least in these video game loot boxes, you're at least getting something. Even if it might be crap, or it might be the sparkly, shiny thing you want.
Yeah.
I personally very, very rarely spend my own money on loot boxes. I've done it in Overwatch. I've done it in Guild Wars 2, but I'm not one of these people who, puts in $50 every time the new shinies come out.
Yeah.
So I'm torn on it. I can totally understand it. And if it happens to come here to the US and they end up banning them, then the companies are just going to have to evolve, and they're going to have to find a new way to entice people to buy.
Yeah, I was actually reading an article about relating to that not that long ago, and how gambling is defined in U.S. law currently. And according to the article, they were saying that right now, as long as you get something, it's not considered gambling. So that's where we are currently, which is an interesting take to put on it. And I know there are people pushing for the government to get more involved in all of it. But it is a fair point that, like, whether you value the thing you get or not, you're still getting a thing
you still
out
get
of
something.
Yeah.
My take is I don't want the government touching my video games. Because I've seen what they've done to other things, but that's a conversation for another time. You know, for me, like I really like the Heroes of the Storm approach to loot boxes, where, you know, if you want to put some money into it, you can. But you're, like you said, Robin, you're always kind of getting something out of the loot boxes, even if it's, you know, the bargain bin garbage, you know, then you've still kind of gotten something for that. But one of the things I really like about the Heroes approach is that as you are, even if you get doubles of something, you still get kind of an in-game crafting currency to be able to turn that around into the item that you're really looking for. And so the loot boxes there aren't exactly a wash, because you're still incrementally working towards the thing. So, you know, the thing that really is the issue for me is when there's something within the loot boxes that's game breaking. You know, that was one of the biggest controversies surrounding Star Wars Battlefront. You know, I shared this in my review of Battlefront 2. That is that I have people in my life that are, you know, they're kids that are looking to me, knowing that I do this, you know, and are looking at like getting their first console and stuff like that, and really love the Star Wars IP, and, you know, going to their parents and going, you know, I think this is the year for a console because I really want to play the Star Wars game, and then have to turn around and break it to the kid, you know, hey, look, you know, there's an issue here. You know, you could get into day one and be already set back because you didn't put, you know, $100 or whatever day one into loot that's going to set you back in the multiplayer, which really that was the main.
It was the case at launch.
Main content of Battlefront 2,
which it changed it a little bit, but definitely did.
You know, I want to point out actually something in the Twitch chat here, and I'm going to butcher your name, but I'm going to call you Tim. Destiny 2 did something interesting with their Punch-Out style cards for the RNG stuff. Yes, something that they did in Warmind, which I really, really, really like, but I'm also a unabashed Destiny 2 fan, was that they did a punch card system where when you level up, you have, I think it's every other level, you get a specific item that will select from a small number of items that are featured for that week, that are kind of some boutique items, and it gives and after every one of those that you get, it takes it out of the pool and doesn't replace it with something else, but then gives you a greater chance to get something that is within that pool.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Yeah,
you
to
liking
Guild Wars
something
2's credit,
Destiny
because you mentioned the Black Lion chests, which has been their gambling box, you know, their loot box since launch. They also started doing as you open, you get a currency that you can then buy whatever you want. So to their credit, they did start doing that as well. And same with Overwatch. You know, even if you get duplicates, you get the coins.
Yep.
So
yeah, and I think that's how they're probably going to circumvent the whole problem that, you know, loot boxes aren't really gambling because you're getting a currency, and, you know, a lot of games have started doing that too, and I saw a lot of that in Marvel Heroes. May it rest in peace. So we're gonna hit one more little news blurb before we move on to plugs, and that is the 3 people were indicted on charges for the Call of Duty swatting. Is it an event? I don't know what you would call it whenever you swat somebody. It's awful, whatever it is. I don't know. Did you hear about this, Peachy? Are you in the know on this subject?
I am not. That kind of thing terrifies me, so I try and stay as far away from it as possible.
Definitely stay far away from it, because it's pretty awful. But I mean, the basic premise is, you know, they called essentially a SWAT team down on this person's home. It was a father, and he opened the door, and apparently there was he wasn't not complying, but whatever he was doing, the officers mistook it as it being like a move against them, and well, needless to say, he lost his life over the situation. And the 3 people involved in setting that whole thing into motion have been indicted. Now, I'm not sure exactly what their sentences are going to be yet, because I think we're still waiting to hear about that. But I mean, personally, I feel that in the sense of what happened, terrible tragedy, but I think we're stepping up in the right direction, because whether it's a swatting attempt or whether it's cyberbullying or whatever it is, I mean, whatever you're doing, I hate feeling like there's no consequences to the people that are doing these kind of things, because I think there needs to be. So in this sense, you know, I know a lot of people feel like maybe the courts haven't gone far enough, that it shouldn't just rest with these 3 people. You know, everything kind of falls back on maybe this should also go into law enforcement, and, you know, what they should be capable of doing and their processes and all that. So it's kind of a big mess. And, you know, whenever it gets into police and it starts getting into government and it starts getting into touching Dame's games, everything just goes out the window. So, I mean, just from the point of view of this information pretty quickly, what do you guys feel about this situation, and what do you feel about what's being done?
Well, I mean, so on the one hand, like with law enforcement in general, when it comes to the internet, a lot of them are just like mystified by it. Like, I know Brianna Wu got a lot of issues with Gamergate, and she was trying to report it to the police here and stuff, and they just didn't know how to handle it because it was coming out over the internet. And they're like, how can you take anything on the internet serious? And it's like, are you kidding? So, like, the fact that they are actually doing something about the people who did the swatting thing is huge, and I think it needs to happen. And regardless of whether it has a tragic outcome like this or not, just doing it needs to be taken really seriously, and the people need to be held accountable. Because, like, not only are you putting people's lives in danger, but you're taking away resources from something where they should be possibly to something completely superfluous, which also costs time and money, and like it's just a complete waste. And like, I have no pity for people who do this kind of crap, because in my opinion, it's like one of the worst things you can do. It's just not okay on any level.
Yeah.
So
I mean, man, I'll tell you what, I think the thing for me that kind of wrecks me over this is seeing that these are kids.
Yeah,
these are kids that did this, and the trajectory of the rest of their life is going to be flavored by this instance.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, haha, you know, for the lulz, whatever, you know, but man, I mean, you know, there's loss of life, there's misallocation of resources, there's you know, very adult consequences to this action. Yeah. I know I used the word flavored. I'm sorry. It's going to be tainted. The rest of their life is going to be tainted.
Yeah. No, I completely understand that. It is a shame all the way around. But you know, I mean, I'm not one to say that I never made mistakes as a kid, but you know,
oh no,
was,
I mean, I was the idiot kid that threw rotten onions at cars on their way by. I don't know why I did.
And that was also just last week for you too, Dame, and you know, so I don't know, it is pretty terrible. And Peachy, any thought, Peachy? You just. Bad.
I look forward to and I hope for the future of law enforcement and the government or whatever has to be done to deal with basically threats that come from the internet, you know, and threats that come from this, you know, technology and social media and the social space online moves so quickly. And I'm excited for people of our generation to get into those law enforcement positions so that they can help to recognize threats like this. And unfortunately, there's going to be incidents like this while it kind of catches up. to the social space online.
Yeah, that's very good. Very true. Time for plugs, everybody. Plugs. Are you excited? Everyone excited about plugs?
Woo! Is there a dance?
There, we should really start one. That's the best dance we could possibly ask for. Plugs is really important, but I also kind of wanted to push one thing out also before we get into plugs, and it's kind of a plug in itself, but not really. Peachy, are you gonna spend any time playing Bless at all, since it's gonna be releasing
Monday? I think
Monday for founders, and then if you're not a founder, if you're not cool enough to be a founder. Then you have
Steven,
to wait.
We're not cool as cool as you are.
No, I never said I was cool, but I am pretty cool. So
you are.
So
can confirm.
So what do you think? Are you gonna spend a little bit of time?
I've watched the trailers. They look really cool. And I've had people come by and ask me, are you going to check out Bless? I might eventually check it out. My backlog of games is so massive, and a new one comes every week that I want to play. So I might check it out eventually. Like right at launch, probably not. So, but it looks really cool. I've seen the trailers. I'm impressed with what they've done to kind of repurpose it for the West release.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a smart play, because usually on launch it's mostly unplayable with all the server downtime and all the crying, and the crying's mostly for me, but still. So
I think games are getting better with that, at anticipating the launch madness.
Yeah.
Well, they said there's only one server launching, so for all of you out there who are interested in trying it, just buckle up.
Don't try to log on when Steven's logging in.
Yeah, please, everyone, just let me get in first, and then we can go from there. So Dame, this week,
yes, sir.
What are you playing? What are you doing?
Oh man. So I got to tell you. Well, I'm not even going to tell you a story. I'm just going to tell you what I'm
You're
playing.
going to tell me. You're going to tell me and not tell me.
Story. No. So I just played a game this week called Quarantine Circular.
Oh yes.
Which dropped out of nowhere. So the mind behind Subsurface Circular, Mike Bithell, just decided that, hey, you know what? I'm going to release another game. No advertising, nothing. Just dropped it on Wednesday.
No
Thursday,
development time, no anything. Just one day he woke up. He's like, new game. Bam, and then just game.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
So it is magical. Okay.
So it's a part of an anthology of stories within the Subsurface Circular universe. I don't know if you guys have played Subsurface Circular at all or not, but you owe it to yourself to spend an hour or two to play it. Because that is all it is. It's about an hour or two worth of game. But anyway, whatever the case is, I got a chance to play it. One of the things that I absolutely love about both Subsurface Circular and Quarantine Circular is that they pose in their stories some really human questions to wrestle with. And so it gives me the opportunity, coming from my background as a pastor, to be able to talk about some of those things, within the context of that. So in both of those, like, I do have a little bit of a pastoral perspective in there. So that review right now is up on GameSpace. I played the weirdest, like, fever dream of a game today. And I'm going to try to pull up the name of this thing, because it was like, I don't even know how I'm going to write about this, but it's called Baobab's Mausoleum, Episode 1.
Okay.
For the Switch. And like I said, it's like a fever dream. It's like if every late 80s, early 90s video games were a part of like this terrible acid trip, like that would be the game, like, because it's all like there's no, and I can't even describe it in a genre, because like every genre is like thrown into this anyway. So that's what I'm playing. As far as plugs go, you can find me on Twitter at Pastor Dame. You can also find me on my weekly podcast that I do with another one of our members of the GameSpace and MMO family, Matt Keith. It's called Roll the Level. It's Roll the Level at Podbean or .podbean.com. It's a running conversation about life, God, and video games in no particular order. And those are the places where you can find me.
Excellent. Robin, tell us what you got.
Okay. Well, for interesting games, I'm currently playing Moonlighter, which is an interesting 2D game.
11-bit Studios.
Yes. Basically, so during the day, you run a shop where you have all these items and you set prices, and it's really funny because like people will wander in and you'll get little emoticons of what they think of your prices, and they can be anything like they think it's way too high, they won't pay, or they think it's too high, but they'll buy it, and or sometimes if you set it way too low, they're like, oh yay, this is amazing. So it's like a mini game of trying to find the sweet spot on your various items that you have to get the most money from them. And then at nighttime, you go out and you go dungeon delving to get the items to sell in your shop. So it's a lot of fun. It's really interesting. It's kind of a little quirky game. I'm enjoying it. So I think my review on it will be up next week, I think.
Ooh,
nice. I am really looking forward to that, Robin, because I was really excited to see the trailer for that game. So I look forward to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, it's a nifty little game. What else? I think that's the main thing I have going on. Aside from Dauntless, if I can get into it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Anyone can get into it.
Yeah.
Jump in the queue now. You might get in by next week. Next week's show. Just like you got in right before this show went live, it's going to happen the same time. You're going to get in the queue now, and right before the next show. But
so about where you can find me, I stream on Twitch at Arlie82. I'm on Twitter, Arlie82. Also, every Saturday afternoon, I do a Guild Wars podcast called Talking Script. Yay. So that's fun. And yeah, I think those are the main ways to find me.
Excellent. Everyone should find you. I forgot that you did that podcast, but now I'm gonna have to check that out. So Peachy, tell us everything about what you're gonna be playing, when you're gonna be playing it, and preferably how you're gonna play it, because that's
oh my goodness. I play way too many games and I don't have enough time on stream or off to play everything that I want to play, but Guild Wars 2 always a staple in my schedule. Wednesday PUBG, and like I think we're going to do Switch games. Maybe start Breath of the Wild soon.
Ooh.
Maybe never played it before.
That'd be fun.
And I hopped into ESO Somerset last Monday,
okay.
and I think I might want to give that another session. In my personal time, I can't get enough of Frostpunk. Another 11-bit Studios. I just love them. And any micromanaging strategy game, and they're just pros at it. I cannot get enough. It's so great. But yeah, I stream every weekday starting at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And my schedule for every week is up on my Twitch page and on Twitter and Discord. And you can find me at Aurora Peachy, one word, just about everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you want to go there, I never update it. But is it here? It's over here.
No,
it's over here.
Got it. Yeah, back, the other way.
Aurora_Peachy on Twitch. You can find me there. And I just want to do a quick super shout outs to my new Crystallium stream team, 9 amazing, friendly, positive streamers. And we've been raising money for St. Jude Play Live this month. And we are up to, as a team, $66.4 thousand raised for charity.
That's
So
awesome.
amazing job from everyone on that team. So super proud of everyone.
That's awesome.
So awesome.
That is really cool. So we're gonna make sure that we get that out, and I'm also gonna put a little blurb about that. I'll get some information from you about it a little bit more, Peachy. We're gonna put that out on our podcast whenever we put our podcast out, so that we can also help support you guys, supporting charity.
Thank you.
Because we love doing that, and our podcast, surprisingly, is what I'm going to be plugging today. Because I always plug it. I mean, if you've been watching the show, you know I've been plugging the podcast. Go to the podcast. Everyone go to the podcast.
Been doing work, man.
Yeah, I've been putting it out there, and we've had some amazing growth in the few short weeks that our podcast has been out. It's picking up steam, and let me tell you, this was interesting because last week we had Brad McQuaid and Chris Perkins And everybody was really excited to talk to them and hear them and listen to what they had to say. But, you know, a lot of times you don't have an hour to sit here and watch everything and all the videos and everything. And the same with the Peachy community, because you may not have, you know, an hour while you're commuting or something to watch or listen to Peachy. But you can listen to the episode as many times as you want. And we don't penalize you for it. It is free.
Nope. It's a buy and play sort of deal. There's no sub fees here.
Yep.
No loot boxes.
No loot boxes. No loot boxes. No sub fees.
So definitely check that out. You can find it. GameSpace Game Show is all you have to look up. GameSpace, one word. Game Show, 2 words. We are on every imaginable podcasting platform. iTunes, Spotify. Yeah, how many are there? We're on all of them. It doesn't matter. Check out all of them. Just download it on every single one. As for what I'm going to be playing this next week, I will be in Bless pretty much until my review hits on it. And I'm going to be hitting it up pretty hard. And you know what, Dame? I think I'm going to do a giveaway. I think we're going to do a copy of Bless giveaway on our next show. So next week, if you guys are interested in getting into Bless and you're not really sure, I'm going to be streaming it a couple days this week. And then I'm also going to be giving away a copy on our next show. So definitely check that out. I would also like to thank our most wonderful of guests, Aurora Peachy. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Oh, thank you. This was awesome.
We hope that you come back. You know, we're going to have a lot of other topics, game topics, just general topics, and, you know, spotlighting your stream maybe a little bit more and your charity work, which we didn't get to go too much into, but we would definitely like to further later on. So if you'd be willing to come back, we would love to have you back. Whenever you
I love being on a podcast that I'm not running, so I don't have to do all the technical work.
Yep.
I have my own Guild Wars 2 podcast, so
I hear that.
I know what goes into it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So thank you so much for being here, and thanks everybody in the chat channel, all of Peachy's people, all of our people, some of Dame's people, most of Robin's people, and for all of us here at the GameSpace Game Show. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.